All right, so like I said, we are going to be taking what we've been learning about carbohydrates, fats, proteins, and taking it a step further and looking at the My Plate. So the recommendations on our nutrition intake based as a whole picture, not just individual concepts. So I just want to kind of go over that the USDA, United States Department of Agriculture, is the one that kind of oversees this. There's a website here that we'll be looking at later. But these are the topics that we're going to get into. So this PowerPoint has all of the information that we're going to go through for the entire week. We're going to break it into sections and chunks and only talk about a little bit each and every day. So today we're going to focus on the introduction and physical activity, which is kind of fun considering it's the new year and this is a time when people start making New Year's resolutions and things like that. So maybe this might spark an idea for you. But today, like I said, introduction and physical activity is what we're going to go through. So this is the My Plate, and it is a visual graphic of what should be put on your plate for each of the meals that you have throughout the day. This is very different than the old way. Who knows what the old way of putting the nutrition information together was? A pyramid. So a pyramid is kind of hard to visualize how much that looks like when you actually go to eat it. Okay, so by putting it in this plate form, it's a lot easier to see how much or how you should divide up your meals. Okay, so again, the United States Department of Agriculture, we should all remember that from way the early beginning of this semester, is the USDA. They are the ones that are responsible for putting out and publishing and making it kind of customer knowledge about this whole guidelines for what we should and should not be consuming in our diet. Okay, so they're the ones that are going to be making posters that you see in the cafeteria, that kind of thing, to promote this healthy eating. Right? We talked about how it replaced the food pyramid. So if you look down here, the pyramid, yeah, it's nice, it's colorful, it looks appealing, and it has images so that you know what goes in each category. But in terms of knowing the actual amount and portion size that you should eat, it's a little bit tricky. So by putting it in a plate, I can see that a quarter of what I eat should be vegetables. Half of what I eat should be fruit and vegetables. And half of what I eat should be proteins and grains. Okay, the plate, it provides the same information, just in a more organized form. Okay, there's also, if you go on the choosemyplate.gov website, it's got an interactive type of thing where you can click into it, and we'll play around in that later in the week. But it also allows you to take a quiz and kind of customize what your actual intake should be. Okay, energy requirements. So our energy is the calories that we get from our food. So we get so many calories from carbohydrates. Does anybody remember what that is? How many calories you get from a carbohydrate? 4. You get 4 from protein, and you get 9 calories from fat. Okay, so calories is the amount of energy that you get. So we eat food in order to have energy to sustain our life. Not only to be able to walk and work out and do all those things, but even just to breathe and to our body to function. Okay, each person individually has their own basic requirements. Okay, the suggested calorie intake for the day, so what they kind of the average is 2,000 calories. So they're saying on average, a person should consume 2,000 calories a day. However, based on your age, your activity level, your gender, all of those things kind of factor in and might offset that sum. So, for instance, somebody who is a major bodybuilder, working out all the time, their calorie intake is going to be vastly different than somebody who sits at home on the couch playing video games all day. Okay, their needs are different, so they don't need the same calorie intake. So, we need to learn about balance. What foods should we increase in our diet and what foods should we kind of decrease and stay away from? I feel as though this is a lot of common sense stuff and we all understand and we know what we should do. It's putting it into practice that sometimes makes it challenging, and is why that at this new year, a lot of people set those New Year's resolutions. Okay, so balance. Balance is the idea that you should enjoy food, right? Food is good to eat, not just does it give us energy, but it is also delicious, some of it. So you should be able to eat food, but maybe eat less of it. So don't have a huge helping of something. If you want a piece of cake, have a small piece of cake. Don't eat like a whole quarter of a cake. So balance is essentially using moderation, like having everything, but having it in smaller amounts. Okay. What foods should you increase? Okay, half of your plate, which I already told you, but looking at the my plate, half of your plate should consist of fruits and vegetables. They also recommend that you can purchase things that are either fat-free or low in fat, specifically things that are like dairy-related, like fat-free milk, skim milk. Those types of things are ways to cut some of those calories and still have the milk or dairy products that you enjoy. And then at least half of your grains should be whole grains. So that is one of the main reasons why when you eat lunch in the cafeteria and you buy like a cheeseburger, the bun now is a wheat bun because they have made those changes due to what is being required. Okay. Foods to reduce. Okay, anything with a lot of sodium. What is sodium? Salt. Okay, so we want to limit our intake of salt. Sodium is something that is used a lot in processed foods. So when you're buying processed foods like your ready to eat mac and cheese that you just put in the microwave or whatever, those types of things that are convenience foods, they're usually packed with sodium, but there's oftentimes a low sodium option provided. So you want to try and avoid that. And then another big thing is sugar. Sugar is one of the worst things that we can consume on a regular basis. And so trying to avoid added sugar in different foods, and especially in your drinks. Now, I know a lot of people like to drink Starbucks, Big B, like all those cappuccinos and those really yummy coffees with the coffee creamers and stuff. Those are loaded with sugar that we sometimes forget about because it's not sugar in the sense of pouring sugar in your cup. Okay. That takes us to looking at physical activity. So not only does my plate talk about what foods you should eat, but they also talk about what you should be doing for your body. Okay, making sure that physical activity, whatever type it might be, happens as a regular daily activity. Okay, physical activity, obviously movement of your body. You can't really do physical activity just laying in bed or playing a video game. Yeah, you're moving your hands, but you're not actually like getting up and moving. Okay, it offers the most benefit or is the most useful and produces the best outcome when your heart rate actually rises. Okay, so there's a target heart rate for every individual person depending on your needs and how your body already operates. But in order for the physical activity to actually be a physical activity and pushing your body beyond its normal, your heart rate needs to rise, okay? So the target heart rate. This is a range that is optimal. So there's a range of where your heart rate should rise during exercise. So when you're actually doing something, going for a walk, a run, lifting weights, or doing some kind of cardio, okay? This provides benefit to your heart and your lungs. So it gets you breathing a lot harder. And it is usually 60 to 80% of your maximum heart rate. So when you take your resting heart rate and you figure out what you normally are at rest, and then you increase that to get what your optimum workout level would be. Some people's resting heart rate is, 65. Some people 62. Some people even 70. So it just depends on how hard your heart works when you're already at rest to know where you need to raise it when you're doing physical activity. So, how do you find your target heart rate? This is a formula to find your range. So, depending on if you're doing moderate exercise or vigorous. So, moderate exercise is not anything too super strenuous. Vigorous, obviously, it's going to really push you pretty hard. So, it would be the difference between doing yoga or doing cycling would be some vast differences. Okay. So when you look at the activity and how often this should occur, it says, or they say that you should do 150 minutes a week, which kind of breaks down to half an hour for at least 5 days out of the week. So that's why a lot of times your doctor will say, are you getting, physical activity daily? Because if you think about it, doing 150 minutes in 3 days, as much as that would be great exercise, it's not regular for your body and probably not as conducive to maybe doing smaller chunks more frequently. So moderate exercise, heart rate rises, body temperature gets hot, brisk walking, gardening, dancing. Vigorous exercise is going to do those things as well, increase your heart rate, increase your temperature. This would be something that as you're doing the exercise, it's going to be hard to kind of carry on a conversation. You might be able to talk a little bit, but most likely not an in-depth kind of conversation. These are going to be things like running, cycling, like I said, and doing those things. So, in a nutshell, what the MyPlate is kind of talking about is looking at what food we're putting into our body and breaking it down in a easy to understand visual, and then applying the concept of physical activity and making sure that we continue to work off the calories that we're putting into our body.